The Anunnaki and Planet X, Nibiru, the Nibiru Cataclysm. Alexander Light, Humans Are Free. Nibiru is a name of a celestial body of the Babylonian mythology. According to their mythology, Nibiru was a mighty celestial object associated with the god Marduk. Nibiru means place that crosses, or the place of transition. In many Babylonian texts, it's identified as the planet Jupiter, although on tablet 5 of the Enuma Elish, it's associated with the polar star. In the last couple of decades, it's been proposed that Nibiru is a planet orbiting our sun beyond Neptune and which crosses the orbits of the rest of the planets. However, despite these claims, the scientific community denies the existence of such a planet categorically and has made multiple statements in this regard. In an article written by the Skeptical Inquirer, Morrison wrote that for astronomers, quote, persistent statements about a nearby but invisible planet are simply absurd, end quote. This hate towards Nibiru may originate from the fact that on numerous occasions claims have been made that a rogue planet on a 3,600-year orbit is about to enter the inner solar system and visit a catastrophe upon our Earth. Some 8 years later, mainstream astronomers have gotten excited about a planet they cannot see. Remember the fuzz about Planet 9 or Planet 10, Planet X? They call it Planet 9, so they don't call it Planet 10 or Planet X. Anyway, Caltech astronomers Mike Brown and Konstantin Batygin made an explosive claim in 2016. Based on the orbital motion of objects in the Kuiper Belt, that's a region beyond Neptune that's home to Pluto and other icy bodies, there must be a very big something much farther out, hidden save for its subtle gravitational tugs on the rest of our solar system. An invisible planet. They haven't found it yet, but they aim to. Now, after claims were made, the scientific community kept their cool and treated Mike Brown and Konstantin Batygin's research as possible, despite improbable. As explained by Scientific American, quote, Brown and Batygin's best models put this mysterious object at about 10 times Earth's mass, perhaps 20 times more distance from the Sun than Neptune, and currently drifting through what might be a 20,000-year orbit in a patch of sky near the constellation Orion. Brown and Batygin called it Planet 9. But let's not forget how some of the most important planets in our solar system were discovered. It all started out as an idea. And interestingly, the idea that unknown planets exist far from the Sun is not something new. In fact, such claims can be tracked back to the 1800s and encouraged the discoveries of both Pluto and Neptune. So if it exists, Planet 9's orbit means that it would take 10 to 20,000 years to make one trip around the Sun. Now, speaking about this invisible planet, Batygin said, I try not to be religious about my results. It's important to keep a skeptical eye. But I feel more comfortable than I did 2 years ago because the theory still holds up beautifully. The more we look, the more we see a solar system that makes no sense without Planet 9. Scientific forums warn of a common strategy of confuse and feed the myth of the existence of this planet, consisting of relating the planet Nibiru with any comment about Planet X, Planet 9, or the dwarf planet Eris. Many authors who are convinced that the mythological planet from the ancient Sumerians is a real point towards the idea that Nibiru is already visible and or that NASA hides information, giving as proof an optical effect that occurs in low-quality cameras when photographing the sun, never seen with the naked eye. On Google, YouTube, and other social networks, we find a treasure trove of information about Planet X, aka Nibiru, although without scientific references. But let's not forget that what is one day a pure myth for astronomy can turn years later into reality. And Brown and Batygin's Planet 9 is proof of that. Now returning to Nibiru. One of the typical arguments to explain the lack of visibility of the mythological planet is that, quote, the human eye can only see the colors that are within the spectrum of visible light. That is when the emissions of light has a wavelength of 400 to 700 nm. On the other hand, infrared light has a longer wavelength, so we need a camera that's capable of detecting infrared light, presumably that which Nibiru emits, end quote. However, at the same time, it is stated that Nibiru is a planet, therefore it must reflect the visible light of the sun, and not a star that emits light. But does it mean that even though we have not spotted it, it's not there? Well, not really. I mean, look back at Planet 9 and the fuzz behind it. We can't spot it, yet there is evidence to suggest that it exists. However, the evidence that Nibiru is real is scarce, and is almost based on ancient mythological texts and the translation of the Mesopotamian texts, the popular ancient astronaut theorist Zecharia Sitchin. The Nibiru Cataclysm is a supposed disastrous collision between Earth and the massive planet said to be home to the ancient Anunnaki. The controversial theory first appeared in 1995 when it was put forth by Nancy Leader, founder of the website Zeta Talk. However, the author who made Nibiru popular in modern culture was ancient astronaut writer Zecharia Sitchin and his interpretations of the Babylonian and Sumerian mythology, although he denied any connection between his work and various claims of a coming apocalypse. In Sitchin's book, The 12th Planet, the author goes through his interpretation of ancient Mesopotamian religious texts, how a giant planet called Nibiru or Marduk passes by Earth every 3,600 years, allowing its sentient inhabitants to interact with humanity. Sitchin identifies these beings with the Anunnaki in Sumerian mythology and claimed that they were humanity's first gods, the alien beings that created us, he said. As explained by Sitchin, Nibiru referred to as the 12th planet since as Sitchin claimed, the Sumerians' gods given interpretation of the solar system counted all 8 planets plus Pluto, the sun, and the moon. There was a home of a technological advanced extraterrestrial race called the Anunnaki in Sumerian myth, who Sitchin states are called the Nephilim in Genesis. Sitchin wrote that they evolved after Nibiru entered our solar system, and they first came to Earth some 450,000 years ago, looking for minerals, specifically gold, which they found and mined in Africa. Sitchin states that these gods, quote-unquote, were the rank-and-file workers of the colonial expedition to Earth from planet Nibiru. This is by Ivan, guest writer, cover image, and this is on Humans Are Free by Alexander Light. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.